We have Todd Waldecker from Middle Tennessee State University, Cathy Wood, who is on a sabbatical right now at Brandon
Woo!
University in Canada, and Wonkak Kim, who is currently at the University of Oregon. So I'm going to back out of the session as we have been doing, and Jenny, and we will take your questions in the chat. But I'm going to let them tell you all a little bit more about them and what they do.
Who wants to go first?
Why don't you go first, Todd?
I'll go first. Well, I want to thank the ICA for putting on this event. What a great opportunity for those of you at home that are curious about maybe what study is like at the college level with clarinet. And if you're watching this on a Saturday, I imagine you are a pretty committed clarinet player. You're the type of person who is thinking ahead, and you're motivated and you're curious. And I just want to congratulate you for just tuning in and getting some of your questions answered and just thinking ahead about where clarinet and music might take you. Like Jessica said, I teach at Middle Tennessee State University. It is 30 miles southeast a little bit of Nashville. So basically, we think we're in Nashville. It's a large public university. We have a lot of opportunities and programs for students, and I've been teaching here for 23 years. And I can honestly say I love going to work every day. It's the best job I could imagine. I get to play and teach the clarinet every day, all day. I don't want to know how many scales I've heard in my life. I've still got lots more to listen to, but it's all part of it. But a little bit about myself. I'm from Missouri. I went to school in Missouri for undergraduate music education, and then I went to Yale for my master's degree and Indiana University for my doctorate. And like I said, I've been teaching in Tennessee for 23 years. And shout out to Jessica and Jenny, our hosts for the day. They were both my students. Jenny, when she was in high school, I was one of her clarinet teachers and thrilled to work with her. And Jessica completed her master's degree and was a fantastic graduate assistant for me. And I'm just so proud of both of them that their careers have just skyrocketed with clarinet. So if you don't, when you're looking for schools and things, don't just rely on the catalogs and the teachers. Find other clarinetists out in the world and ask their opinions. I know Jenny and Jessica have both reached out to tons of professionals and people in the world as they made their educational decisions and journeys. So I'll pass it off to, I think, maybe Cathy. Go, Cathy.
Hi. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Todd. I think we are lucky. We have one of the best jobs. Yeah, you get to teach, you get to meet new people, and stay in touch with young people who are in that exciting increase in their careers. And then we also had the freedom to do research and perform and travel. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty lucky, and I'm feeling very lucky because I'm on sabbatical, and actually Jenny McClay is covering for me right now. So yeah, I'm very happy to do what I do. So I teach in Brandon University, and for those of you who are not super familiar with Canada, that's in Manitoba, which is dead in the center. And it's really cold here right now, as Jenny can probably attest to. But yeah, I've been here for this is my 13th year now. And before coming here, I was in North Carolina, and I actually grew up in Manitoba, so it's coming home for me. I grew up in Winnipeg and went to the University of Manitoba, and then I did my master's at the University of Oklahoma with David Etheridge. And then I went to Michigan State University and studied with both Elsa Verdere and Carolyn Hartig. So that was kind of my journey. Go green. Just looking at the chat here. Yeah, so I've been here for 13 years, and I'm really excited about this session and answering any questions you might have. I've got some things I would love to get into, but why don't we finish the introductions with Juan?
Hi, thank you, Kathy. And thank you, Jessica and Jenny, once again putting this together. What a great forum, and just good to see my old colleagues and friends. So I am assistant professor of clarinet at the University of Oregon School of Music and Dance, and I'm going into my fourth year here. Before this job, I taught at Tennessee Tech University, just about an hour and a half away from where Dr. Waldecker is teaching currently. I've met him there several times. We've done exchanges. So there we go. It's just great collegial community. I mean, it's a small community. You get to know everybody along the course. And before that, I was in grad school and school. I did my undergraduate degree at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I studied both mathematics and music. And then I went to do my graduate studies at Florida State University with Dr. Frank Kowalski. And I grew up in Northern Virginia with high school, but before that, I actually lived in Seoul, Korea. That's where I was born and raised, and I lived a little bit in France. So I moved around quite a bit, and so now I think I lived in the U.S. The longest year for the first time. So it's just interesting to look back, and my musical training was also interesting because I started fairly late. I think when I was in ninth grade, when I came here, that's when I started taking lessons seriously. And I just really fell in love. I think I would have been one of the students who would be watching this on Saturday as a high school student. But, I didn't have any intention to like pursue the career of music until well into my undergraduate degree, probably into my graduate degree, in fact. But I'm just really lucky to find a career that I can do what I love to do, and I'd love to share my experience or inputs. Any questions? Because I know that the blurs between the professions as well as what you want to do in college. I mean that's just, I think things are shifting, and it's both confusing but also really exciting, I think. So
Maybe we could start off with a general question. What advice would you give to anyone considering majoring in music in college?
well, maybe I'll go first since I started the last, because I just remember growing up and as a high school student, a lot of answers I got was don't do it. Especially from my parents, and in a certain degree that's there's a certain precautionary warning because it is a very difficult path. But what I realize is that everything in life is difficult, no matter what profession. And ultimately, I think what comes down to is that if you love doing what you do, there's nothing more powerful as a drive and motivation as that. Therefore, that comment itself is irrelevant. I think what you need to take from it is that, yeah, it is serious, challenging path, and I think you do need to prepare. And again, the fact that you are connecting already as a middle school, high school students in this forums tells you that you are dedicated and you have a great potential to be successful. And so I think that's my greatest advice. There's a lot of concerns and worries, and just look at how the world is changing. A lot of things that we took for granted in other career field where we thought things were safe, permanent, it's not really true anymore. So again, that always strengthens my argument where you love this, you found great joy, but also and also you feel the calling, you see the great value of music. I think those are all the reasons for you to be determined and keep aspire to become a great musician. There's so many things that you can do. I mean, clarinet definitely is one of them, a channel, but I think this is one of the greatest studies that you can pursue in college.
Yeah, I can add on to that. When I was a high school student, wonderful Canadian and great clarinetist James Campbell came to Winnipeg to do a concert. And so I took a lesson with him afterwards. And the last question I asked him after the lesson was, "What advice do you have for me? What else can I do?" And so what he said was, "Practice now, you won't have time later." And now as a professor, I understand that. But so yes, obviously practice. I think also investing in your future is really important. So if you're not currently taking lessons, it's really worth the investment to study one-on-one with someone who's doing what you want to do, basically. And then also with the advice of that person, to invest in some good equipment, a good mouthpiece, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'd say practice, and then also just to get strong in all areas of things related to music. If you don't play piano, start playing a little piano, ear training, theory, that kind of thing. There's lots of wonderful books out there about business and self-promotion and that kind of thing, which you may want to get into. And then finally, I would just add on to that. If you're going into music, suddenly something that may have been not a hobby, but it may have been something that you didn't spend as much time on before, you're now doing all day, every day. So you might want to talk to someone about taking care of yourself. You're an athlete, and a lot of first years get injuries. And so that's something really important to think about. But practice now, you won't have time later.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to piggyback on what Juan was saying about things are changing, and maybe you're getting a little discouraging non-encouragement from people like, oh, don't go into music. It's so hard in the career field and the jobs. Oh my gosh, it's impossible to do that. Well, I think everyone on this forum today, our careers look a lot different than we probably imagined they were going to be. I mean, we had dreams, and maybe we knew principal of Boston Symphony would be like the job that I would want, or to be in the president's own Marine band or something like that. That's kind of, you have that dream and that goal, and that's great. You've got to have it. But your life is going to take so many avenues and twists and turns. And I think now I've been doing this long enough that I can look back and say, this career is better than I ever imagined it was for myself. And I think for Jenny and Jessica, we have two fairly recent college graduates. Their career is taking very exciting twists and turns, and it doesn't look anything like it did when I knew them when they were students. So don't be discouraged that it's good to dream, but your career is going to take off in an area that is just for you. Only you can do that job someday. So I think I would not be discouraged with that. The other thing, I think the advice I'd give you is the word talent. I tell you, that word talent, that is so overrated. And when somebody says to me, oh, do you know, clarinet player, do you know Susie? She is so talented. And I want to say, so what? Does she work hard? Because I remember seeing a bumper sticker that said, who's this talent guy, and why is he taking all the credit for my hard work? So I've been teaching college long enough to see that talent is just a head start. Maybe things come a little bit easier for you, or you see someone that seems to come really easy for them. That's fine, at the beginning, but it's the years of hard work. Everyone on this panel today has put in the hours, So just remember, if you think maybe you don't have the talent that someone else has, or it doesn't really matter. It's work. And wherever you go to school, if you go to Juilliard or if you go to Pumpkin State, and Pumpkin State is a very good school, it doesn't really matter. What those schools both have the same, 24 hours a day, and how you use that is critical. So regardless of the school that you attend, you're going to have 24 hours a day. How you use it is completely up to you.
That's all really wonderful advice. I'm wondering if any of you have any specific things that people could do to prepare, such as maybe taking lessons or like repertoire to prepare, equipment to buy, or anything like that.
Well, I'm the oldest one here, so I'm going to bring up something. If I was a student clarinetist right now in high school, I don't think I would have ever left my room for food. I cannot believe the tools and the things you have at your fingertips now on the internet. Okay, true story, old school, 1970s. My mom bought a duet book for me at the music shop. Well, I didn't really have a friend who played clarinet that was as good as me. So I took that duet book and I would get my old boom box. Y'all know what a boom box is? Had a cassette tape. I would record myself playing the second part, I rewind it, and go back and play duets by myself all day, every day. I was such a clarinet nerd. I thought that was cool. I cannot believe what is available now. the a cappella apps, the multi-tracking, the virtual accompaniments. It's almost too much, but it's so exciting. And I think the students that I get most excited about are the ones who are curious and they find things online and they listen and they explore and they experiment. It doesn't really help you. You know that guy in class that raises his hand and asks the teacher, "Do we have to know this? Is this going to be on the test?" That to me is not very exciting. That shows someone who just does the minimal, tell me what to do. I love it when students bring ideas to me, pieces they found, artist recordings they've heard, the ones who are exploring all the time and curious. So I think being curious before you even start college is really important to your growth. Really, and if you can't find a private lesson teacher in your area, or maybe finances are an issue, you can learn so much online. There's so many great tutorials. So I'd say take advantage of that. Be curious.
Yeah, I could add on to that. That's wonderful advice. And I think there is so much. And sometimes, for someone who I sort of grew up in the transition period, it can be a little overwhelming, but it's so exciting. All the apps and the sites out there that you can learn from and interact with. And just a little plug for ICA here. That's you're here, so you know about it. There's so many great articles and just people who can give you advice about what to look out for. Some specifics, maybe I would say, like Todd was mentioning earlier about the importance of scales. I think definitely spending some time preparing for university, and once you're in university, on scales, things like the Krebs books I really like, for tonal exercises, for ear training, and just for patterns that you're going to use a lot. One thing that gets overlooked and would be great for people to start young, start early, is intonation. So when I listen to auditions, of course, we're listening for rhythm and technique and potential of the student, but I think intonation actually could be quite revealing about a lot of aspects of playing. So I think it's great to get some kind of drone app and play a pitch, and then you can play along with it. It's actually a really nice, comforting way to start a practice session. And now especially since many people are not in ensembles and not able to play with other live human beings, it gives you a way to tune in context without just matching the pitch of a tuner, but you're actually real world tuning. So intonation would be a thing I would hone in on. And yeah, lessons, like Jenny was talking about. And of course there's like the Rose Etudes and Berriman scale books, that kind of thing, to get really stable foundation. And then from there to explore. I like to encourage even young students to spend a little portion of their practice exploring transcribing, transposition, improv. I'm just actually starting to get into, I finally have time. I've downloaded an app that I'm going to start playing around with loop pedals, and I've talked to some guitar friends about effects. But just exploring and having fun and experimenting and doing things, just to see what the clarinet could do and what you can do. Yeah.
Such great advices. I mean, just perspective that we hear from Dr. Waldecker, and a lot of very specific advices from Professor Wood that I think any high school young students can find help. I just gotta say, I relate to Dr. Waldecker's story because I thought I was the weird one because I got the cassette tape. We still had cassette tape, just at the final fringe of that time. I used to record those and play with myself on the stereo. Just there are very few kids willing to learn extra music and play with me in band. So I was kind of devastating the first few years, and then I got to find more friends. And I think by my senior year in high school, I got lucky enough to put together like a Mozart quintet or even Brahms quintet and play with some string players. But and just playing together, I think that's at the core of it. We do what we do, but frankly, the best part about music and being able to play music is to connect and communicate in that setting. Chamber music for me, it's the just like the ultimate reason that I think I do this. And then you have just such variety of ways to interact and collaborate with people, not just with musicians, but anybody else. So start doing that. Start getting to know people and connect. And it doesn't always have to be so specific to clarinet. I think that's one mistake we kind of narrow-mindedly lock ourselves in earlier on. You know how Dr. Waldecker said that those kids who ask, what's going to be on the test and get worried about grades. Yeah, I think you can do that for math. I can tell you from my experience, but frankly, I'm a little concerned if I run across the students in that way. I understand, that you want to really get good grades, but I think the assumption is yes, you'll of course get an A. Are you kidding me? That's like the most basic one in what we do. We are dying to play more. We're dying to play more scales. I think that's the drive I was telling you about. Doesn't matter what your current level is, as long as you have that drive. If you're asking, do I need to prepare those three scales for my test? I'm really worried. Are you going to ask a E major, for example? I think that mentality is a little problematic. That's where I would start worrying. Perhaps think about the music major. Are you really sure? But if that is not the case, you're dying to play. I think there is no question. Even if you may have few lessons, there are things that you can do very quickly once you start studying. So that's I think one of my prerequisite when you audition, when you are hoping to pursue music, is that do you have that kind of drive? Are you worried about you're gonna get all A's in scales? No, of course you have to. That's not a question. You're gonna get way over the A grade, right? So I think that's as long as you have that, then that's good. Now, about specific practicing and taking lessons, it's just so paramount. We cannot overemphasize because it's like any kind of investing. The earlier on, things are so much easier, and it will just get you such a long way. That doesn't preclude, however, that you can catch things up. I myself had to always catch up because I started so late, and I think to date I'm still catching up. And I kind of envision looking back, gosh, I wish I had like 3 year head start because that would have been so much better. So that's the reason. If you have resources, if you have access, use them and start really investing now because the dividend that it will pay for later on. You may need to spend only an hour for things you have to spend 20 hours later on to make it into you. But at the same time, if you're doing other productive things, other things that are great, you're a great reader, you're a great athlete, there are a lot of things that you do. I think ultimately in the long run, they all come together because as much as I, kind of uh, regret the time that I wasn't able to put specifically for clarinet, other things I got to do are somehow making up, even in a better way. So you got a late start. You're living in a area where you cannot take lessons, so you feel so behind, and you look this crazy kids on YouTube who can do all these things. Like I'll never get there. A lot of times you look at that kid 10 years later and see what he's doing, and I'm surprised that a lot of them are not clarinetists anymore. I'm the clarinetist, professional clarinetist, so it's kind of crazy to think. And I'm looking forward to a very long career, hopefully, just continue on. So I think it's just the things that worries us. It's not always what it seems like, and I think as long as again you have the drive, and then you're open to just be curious and exploratory. I think that those are the most important aspects. And just coming to college, think about all the professors that you'll meet, all the classes you'll take, all these colleagues and friends from everywhere. I mean, that exposure is just remarkable. And I think that's really the best time of your life to get anything, um, you know, just a big time for growth.
Many wonderful thoughts. We have a comment. Good point one on your chamber music experiences and youth orchestra in high school, how they were really the reasons that attracted Shannon to the music profession. I think that's felt by all of us that had that experience. Another question. So after you prepare, you take your audition, you get accepted, you are a music major. Can you talk about different degree programs and maybe what they look like, the similarities and the differences between
I'll just start very briefly since I spoke so long. We're kind of going this reverse orders. I like it a lot. So, well, as much as I said all those, as soon as you come to school, you're stuck now. I'm gonna lock you into the practice rooms, and you gotta practice 9 hours a day, all closed scales and corruption. But yeah, I think my approach is that as long as you're here, yes, that you want to just use as much time as you can to get things done. And I treat very similarly, at least in that respect, in the clarinet practicing music education. We have general music education. We have bachelor of arts music, which is general music. So it's even less stringent degree program. And then of course you have a music performance degree. We also recently launched popular music degree at the University of Oregon, and I have some students doing composition centered and even music technology. Um, and then, of course, there are double majors, like I did myself, and minors, non majors. So it's a really great mix of pot. And I think this especially is specific to the larger universities as opposed to conservatories like Juilliard and Curtis, which is extremely sort of focused on a smaller group, all performance. So there are, of course, advantages and disadvantages in both, but I see the great advantage of that mix is that there's that interaction that I told you about. So you go out as a very well-rounded, well-prepared musician and scholar and entrepreneur. So I think that's one thing. As far as what to pursue, what to choose, I think you kind of yourself know if you want to be the principal at Boston Symphony, go for the performance major. I mean, it's the performance I think is specifically more centered toward that kind of training, higher degrees in performance. But again, it's not in any way limiting. I've seen plenty of music education students who play just way better at getting major symphony jobs, and it's so don't let that discourage you. But I think what you should be doing as a high school student is read through those degree programs and what the focuses of those are. We got 24 hours a day, too little, and we can't do everything. So it's just a matter of tailoring based on your focal interest. So again, doing one thing doesn't preclude you from doing the other, but I think you can definitely strengthen the area of your interest. You should not, however, I think, blindly follow the advices such as music performance is bad, you should do music education, or vice versa. Because I've heard some of those before. What are you going to do with music performance degree? Frankly, it doesn't really matter, I think, because it's just undergraduate degree, and I think it's really up to you what you pursue. So that's what I would advise. We also have graduate programs with Masters of Performance, Doctorate, DMA, and recently added music performance certificate. So just a lot of options, and again, great mix of programs for students to interact within studio.
Yeah, just jumping on that, for those people who are uncertain, I think it is important that you don't feel like you're locked in. Many programs, our program at Brandon, the first year is sort of a common year and then you declare a major. But I've had students who do an undergraduate music performance and then they go on to do a master, or sorry, in education and then go on to do a master's in performance. People who do performance and then get an after ed degree. You're not locked in. And I do think a lot of the skills you need, period, in undergrad overlap all degrees. So, I don't treat my students differently in terms of my expectations and the that I want them all to be the strongest musician that they can be. I find that there's sort of a misunderstanding sometimes that somehow if you're not a performance major, your level doesn't need to be the same. But I know all the great music educators that I've met, they're really strong musicians, and it also speaks to your work ethic, right? So I think it's a good sign of just someone who is a good musician, where they take their level. So I think don't feel locked in. It is possible to kind of move between degrees. And I know when you're young, it can seem terrible to have to take an extra year or something like that. But really, in the grand scheme of things, if you change your mind and it's going to take you a little longer to get your degree, you're just going to get more out of it. So yeah, there's a lot of overlap in the degrees, and you're not locked in. So I wouldn't feel worried about that, and that you should try to be as well-rounded as possible. I was trying to do a double major in both performance and education in my undergrad, and ended up going with performance because it was just a lot to do everything at a high level. But I really enjoyed all the techniques classes that I took, like learning how to play the brass instruments and teach them and that kind of thing. And it's come in really handy, just even in chamber music, to understand the issues around the different instruments. So yeah, you're not locked in, and really you should be kind of getting the same skill set, and regardless of your degree.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I'm going to jump on what both Cathy and Juan said. It's okay to come in and be not really sure. I think if you know you want to do something in music, but like we talked about earlier, you're not really sure what direction your career will take. Bachelor of Music is the umbrella degree that we're talking about here. So it's a bachelor degree of music. And then you'll have your specializations, maybe education, maybe performance, popular music, music therapy, composition and theory. And we have a degree called music industry, which is basically music entrepreneurship too. And that is a very popular degree, especially in these times right now, because students need to have entrepreneur skills. And Juan is that guy. Juan, your entrepreneurship skills are amazing. So if you haven't followed him on social media, this guy knows how to work it. But that's what that basically means. And that's what's so exciting about our field, that we're all creative folks, and you can go and do things, especially in this day and age. I mean, in the old days, you used to have a recording contract if you wanted to do anything. Now you can make your own professional digital recordings at home in the kitchen, as long as you kick mom out first. But the point is, you can, so the entrepreneur degree is very exciting. And I think that's the direction we're kind of going. But it's okay to change degree paths. Your parents will not understand. You'll go home for holiday. When are you graduating? Oh, it's okay. We are special. Musicians are special. And it's a little hard to sometimes explain to folks. One thing I would encourage you to do, wherever you attend school, make a connection with your academic advisors. It's not like high school. I mean, one of my best friends is a high school counselor, and that is a hard job. They have so much to do and so many things to do. In college, you will have a specific advisor just for you and your degree program. And this person will help you make decisions. You want to change degree prep plans, they'll help you with that. It's really scary to go off to school and think you have to do all this on your own. No matter how big your school is, you're going to have a support network. But you often have to seek them out. But once you make that connection, they will do everything to help you if you're helping yourself. So, it really doesn't matter in the end, I guess, what specific degree you get. I mean, if you want to teach, you have to have a license and all that. But I always think about why employers want to hire musicians. And you ask about that. What are the traits that musicians have that are so appealing to employers? Well, it's discipline, it's teamwork, it's being able to work with others, pick yourself up after you make a mistake or squeak or whatever, and try again. We have those skills, and so the Bachelor of Music degree is a fabulous degree.
I just want to jump on one thing that Todd brought up about your support network and asking for help. We've all had help in our early stages and continue to have mentors. And we are so people are so happy to help you and answer your questions. So don't hesitate to reach out to, I called random strangers who I respected in the clarinet world when I was trying to make a decision about grad schools and had a few questions about some things. But don't hesitate to reach out. We've all had help, and we are so happy to give it back. So please take advantage of that.
Maybe we could talk about something Todd said about being entrepreneurial. I think that's such an important skill to have these days, especially in such a competitive field. So, what can music majors do to stand out from every other music major that's graduating with the same degree?
Well, all of us could probably start and just list the exciting things our students have done. We're learning so much from our students because they're trying all of these things, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but they learn something from it. Let's see specifics. Oh gosh. Well, you guys may know I have a former student, and Juan also, Michaela Kundari, and she has become basically like the multi-track recording whiz. I don't know. She has 3 million views on the latest TikTok, and she just started doing that. Her first couple were a little rough. She learned. She tried again. She asked a lot of questions, but I'm really impressed with what she's done, and that's one example. I have another student that has done an internship with a pilot program called Careers in Music. Sonia Toms from the Nashville Symphony. This is a project of hers, and she's reaching out to folks and mentoring folks who are interested in careers and where it can take you in the orchestral world. And so my student was an intern with that, and she volunteered to help with their social media. Jenny, you became the social media queen of ICA. I call that very entrepreneurial. Let me ask you real quick, Jenny. Did ICA approach you for this job opportunity, or did you approach them?
They approached me, but I was also helping too. I've always been involved with the ICA ever since I think I met you since high school. So I was really happy to help however I could.
Mm-hmm. But you were already plugged in.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll pass it off.
I think I can add on to that just some general things. Often, at least when I was growing up, people saw that there were only sort of two jobs out there, right? That you're either going to, or three jobs. You're going to go into music education and you're going to teach elementary music or band, or you're going to be a professor, or you're going to play in an orchestra. And there are so many jobs out there, and people are constantly creating new things too. And I think it's really important to, first of all, always follow your interests and your passion and your curiosity, and find the gaps. If you don't see what you want out there, create it, because it's not just those three jobs out there, and there's so many jobs and so many opportunities that are connected to music, but maybe not in the way that your teachers or older generations have talked about or have seen. So I think find the gaps and what are you really interested in, and to do something different.
I'm sorry, can I jump back real quick before
Yeah.
Juan? Also, I started teaching private lessons when I was in high school. I started teaching lessons to little fifth and sixth graders. And sure, I was nervous and I probably wasn't very good at first, but I could model, I could play their music, and I got better. I got better and I got better. And the money was really good. I think I charged $3 a lesson, you know? Um, but that was, if you're interested at all in possibly teaching, the best way to find out if you like it is do it. And believe me, you have the skills. If you're an accomplished high schooler, you've got the skills to teach beginners. You can make some great relationships too with kids and families. Okay, sorry, Juan.
Oh, absolutely. It's so great to hear about Michaela Kundari. I mean, I think I've seen her creations every now and then. I actually been taking some break from social media in general for a number of reasons. It's been nice to do that because I've been very active, like Todd said, for many years. And really enjoyed it. Kind of burned out a little bit, and now finding that I don't know what TikTok is, frankly. I don't know if I want to know. So, but I mean, it's just tremendous, like things that are popping up. All these things. I thought I was very ahead, and I think at a certain point I was kind of forefront of things that are going on, but I'm kind of being retrospective. I think it's okay to sort of explore different things. Sometimes you explore things that are not heavily flashy and just like at the very front of what's going on, because those will give you just the background to again look for more creative outlets too. But it is important nowadays that we're not just competing against the musicians. Just think about the contents we create. I mean, who's gonna look at the clarinet for one thing? It's or classical music in general. It's just so difficult to stand out on YouTube. So like all the algorithm, like how do we, pop out of all this tremendous contents? I always emphasize that we must have a good content, regardless of how we wrap it up. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped on the idea of the advertising and just to making things fancy. We get a little behind in the actual work we do. So that's sort of my personal stage. I think just for, but it is really important to keep both of them. You got to work really hard, be a good musician, be very good at what you do, and then able to deliver that to people. Either or doesn't work. I mean, yeah, maybe if you just practice so well and then you win the big, like all of the competitions, maybe they'll pick you up. But even then, it's not enough nowadays, and vice versa. You don't want to just you can have 100 million views, but you can be a terrible musician, and ultimately, one way or the other, it's gonna come crashing down. So I think it's just something to remember. Just one thing to add is because there's already a lot of good things discussed. I think it's important to look outside the box. Well, doing this TikTok is definitely outside the box. We didn't really have that when we were all preparing for auditions and orchestra. That was very different outlet and opportunities, but also way outside of music itself. So for me, just because of my background, I tutored a lot. I tutored math and English whenever I went to Korea as a student. And at one point, I ran a very successful industry, essentially the tutoring industry, with the unique set of skills, teaching bilingual math or SAT for students to study here in America from Korea. And I will never be able to make the same amount of money. Let's just put it that the when what I did back then, but just being able to translate your skills, and sometimes the resources can be used to strengthen your other endeavors. So maybe teaching lessons in your area is not the best way to say make money. You can make money doing some other set of skills. One of my great students right now, he's a sophomore. He just earned his real estate license. I mean, I think it's just crazy. He's a fantastic player too, but just think about things that you can do. Maybe you'll have less time, but you can practice really well for a short amount of time, and you can use the resources from your other venture, and then you can maybe cut back on a lot of things that you have to do. Say you have to sit in the session just playing the whole notes for 20 hours to get paid very little. You can maybe skip all of that and get much better situation, and you can still practice on what matters. So I think it just that kind of flexibility, especially going forward, is really really helpful. For me, that was also case. I actually didn't have a huge clarinet studio, private studio, just through my studies, mainly because I was not able to build a studio that would pay me maybe a fraction of what I can earn from tutoring math. So I used, that part of my skill for money making, but then I was able to devote far more time on practicing or reading or doing other things that was more important to me. And ultimately, it all came together. And like I said at the beginning, I think all of these experiences can contribute differently, but it is your job to find the most kind of efficient and tailored, personally tailored way that you can use. So again, we want to be creative with the music, but I think we can also venture far out from that. And things that you can develop, interdisciplinary collaboration. You can collaborate with scientists. You can collaborate with doctors. Think about all the music therapy. I mean, just it's infinitely just infinite possibilities in that way.
Right. And I think another really important question and topic to discuss is self-care, which is always important for everyone, but particularly college students this last year, many of whom are living at home or living in places they didn't imagine, dealing with practicing and music and work and stress and jobs and all kinds of other problems. So, what advice would you give to anyone just to make sure that they prioritize self-care?
Can you type something in the, can I type in, Jenny, from here?
Yeah, or if you tell me, I can type it in,
Okay.
but you should have that
There's a
permission.
new program called Koru, Koru, and I'm actually in the middle of training with this with a bunch of other college professors. And Koru is a mindfulness and meditation program designed for young people, so high school, college age, but it works for anyone. But the length of the classes, and there's an app that goes with it where you practice these skills. But that is a program that I am really excited about. And I know my colleague at University of Memphis, she's launching it with her studio this year. And it is so, I'm so glad you asked this, Jenny, because um, back in the day, I keep saying that, back in the day, we didn't talk about self-care. We didn't talk about stress. We just basically, suck it up. What's wrong with you? Get it together. Don't be nervous, whatever. And it was, and I'm so grateful that there are resources out there for people now, and so many ways to get help if you need it, and preventative too. I mean, I wish I'd start my only regret about meditation is that I didn't start it 20 years ago. That's my big regret. So if it's a skill that you practice, just like you practice your instrument or you practice your sport, it is a skill. So I am very, very hot on this right now. So if you're curious about what to do, and there's so many apps, I know there's so much out there, but if you see this in your area, you might want to jump. It's only just 4 sessions. It's 4 weeks. It's very basic, but it gives you those skills. And I'm going to introduce it to my students this semester too. So.
Yeah, I think this year is, well, it's different for us all, right? I think often mental health and physical health is overlooked by musicians, period. But it's really come to light this year how important all of this is, and how it's not just, spend your life in a practice room and get as good as you can at the clarinet. But this year, even just finding motivation to do that. But yeah, I really like that. I'm definitely going to check out that Koru. And there's a lot of fantastic books out there too that talk about musician health. Some of them are geared towards sports psychology, because I think they're a little ahead of us in this realm. And there's some fantastic books. Maybe I'll post something to the chat after. I think physical health too, though. We sit down a lot. We're kind of in a confined space for many hours a day, and I know with COVID and being in the house for a year now, just getting outside and getting some physical exercise can make a huge difference with mental health, but also your ability to play the clarinet. And balance. I mean, I do think as a student, a good chunk of your focus should be on your studies, and your life may be a little out of balance, but I think it's important to live a life so that you can put that into your music and communicate, and so that you can have the friends and the network, and be a human being. So yes, you need to work hard, but I think it's really important to think about, and I think students are doing this now. It's when I'll go into a clinic with young students, they are already aware of this, and people have heard about, even just simple things like stretching. When I was young, no one would talk about warming up and cooling down before playing. You just get into the practice room and do your thing. But that's how injuries happen, and I think people are a lot more aware now, which is fantastic. But yeah, to think about physical health as well, because we are athletes, and cardio is important, but also just our general well-being. They say after 16, your body's deteriorating. So even if you're really young out there, you reach your physical peak at 16. And so you've got to start thinking about your health, and for basically the rest of your life. But yeah, it's a huge topic.
Just taking mental notes myself, because as much as I'm giving some suggestions for all of you, I mean, I love these. I should be doing all of these myself. So yeah, it's. I mean, things are hard. Were hard enough for us, right? With all the things that we were expected to do before the pandemic, both mentally and physically. But now it's just such an exceptional time, and also just to see students going into new environment in this state. So I think it's just interesting division. There are college students who are here before pandemic, so they know what the life of college was like. And of course, there are students coming in or have a first year student this year. They've never had the frame of reference. All my students were essentially mostly remote. All their classes, some of them were in college residence, but most of their classes were held on Zoom. And for me, it's hard to imagine because that's kind of unthinkable from what all of us went through when we were in college. But what I was surprised was how resilient these they were. They were so excited because there were still all these elements that we enjoyed. The community, the friends. They wear masks and they can't be too close, but they somehow managed to do that. I recently actually became one of the faculty fellows in residential hall, so I give some sessions and meet with the residents, non-music students. So I just got to like just go in there and see what people are doing, and it looks very strange to me, but also it looks perfectly normal and happy. So I think it's that's a wonderful sign. Despite of all this craziness, we are inclined to find ways to make things work, to have the college experience. There's just such an important aspect of this. So much more important than clarinet. I mean, it's just a piece of wood, right? So like just that communal, that the network, the support community. I think that's the key ultimately, and we can even connect much more intimately and further through music, of course. It's really heartbreaking that we can't be playing together because, again, that's to me the central elements. I mean, lessons are great, all these things are great, but really what I wanted to do most was to play in orchestra, in band, in chamber group as a student. And just to deprive everyone from doing that has been so difficult. But I think, again, we're all finding creative ways. Our band directors are somehow miraculously finding a way to rehearse in smaller groups in different sessions, bursts of rehearsals. I've done a lot of kind of outdoor activities when the weather was nice. That way we can still play, and we find a lot of uh, things to alleviate from through music. I mean, to me, that was always the way it's been. When I was stressed, the stress just goes away when I play. With people I like to play in orchestra. Just it was so much fun, and I think as an educator, I try to deliver that experience somehow, despite of the all these limitations and health measures and restrictions and such. So I think that's a good place. I always think about why we do this, and don't make things we do as a stress, but rather find the joy from it. And even if you're stressed out, I think those will go away through music. And on top of that, we got all these great resources now, of course. But I think as long as we don't forget, why do we to do this to ourselves? Because we love doing it, and it's such a great way to just get renew your perspective.
Just to quickly add on to that, I think to keep in mind that that musicians are problem solvers, and we will get through this. And I know I've tried things during the pandemic that I wouldn't have if we hadn't had this. So there are some silver linings and a positive side to this. So just to if we will get through this. Wear your masks, get your vaccines, stay distant. But there are some positive things that you're getting out of just having to be creative and having to persevere and survive this.
Wow, thank you guys so much. Having been through college starting in 2002, and I did music ed and performance, and I took teaching with technology class in 2006 spring. And it was Word, Excel, and Netscape Composer, like make your own website. And I'm pretty sure I came into my audition at MTSU and said, hey, check out my website. It's just an orange background with my photo and 3 clips of me playing the clarinet. So we've come a long way. And I think the pressures that young people face having to know so much information going into college is also really burdensome. And I think the last question about mindfulness is really important, because you're not going to know everything. But you have to have passion about what you're doing, because it's difficult, especially right now. If you're a college student in the US, and probably in many other countries, in Canada, I'm sure it's like this, some of you aren't in person. You're having to take all of your classes, online via Zoom, and you're missing connections with people. You're not playing music in ensembles, which is really crucial to developing yourself. And I think it feels kind of scary to think, oh, I got to go to college in the fall, but I probably won't be in person, or I don't know if I'm going to be in person. And I think just reach out to people. If you have the interest in music and the passion in music, you can get through this period where we're sort of separated. And then when you finally have the opportunity to play in band and to play in orchestra and to play in small chamber ensembles, you're going to grow so quickly. So don't be scared about that. And I encourage you to reach out to Juan and reach out to Cathy and reach out to Todd and any of the participants that have been in this event, any people that you know that teach. They will be more than happy, as they've all said, to help you. And Jenny and I are included in that. We are always happy to help you find resources, to help you with playing. I don't care. Because we're all one community, and we all grow, and we all make music, and we understand the stresses and the pressures that we all face. So please keep that in mind. I hope you've enjoyed this panel. I have to eat something. I haven't eaten anything yet. So I'm going to end the session here. But again, thank you, Cathy, Todd, Juan. Thank you to Jenny for your help with all the questions for this panel. And we will see you again at 3:30 for the next session on YouTube. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.